most of these hurricane tracking type applications you may see. We have a very detailed mapping database built into the system. So for example, here's the Gulf of Mexico. As you zoom into areas, the detail increases rather than decreases. You can actually get down to street level as you zoom in. So we're looking at downtown New Orleans, and yes, you can even go down and look at the names of the streets. Now during hurricane tracking, you really don't need to look at that level of detail, but for storm surge you do. And we'll see that a little bit later. In any case, so we have very detailed mapping. We're going to run through some of these graphics rather quickly because we don't want to make this a training module. We want this to be a quick demonstration of the capabilities of the system. We have separate training modules, about 14 hours worth, for folks who want to become very familiar with the system. Well, let's just start with this map, and we've got Ike 42, and we'll start just basically with the track of the storm. So we've got the track of the storm. We can show the watches and warnings along the coast. We can show the forecast track. In addition, we can also show the forecast track average error, and it will show both the 72 and the 120-hour forecast error. We can show that a little bit better here. Any map is pan and zoomable, so you can zoom in rather quickly to any portion of that map. Okay, so let's also now show the forecast models. Here are all the forecast models on that map. Okay, so we have a number of outputs right now, and we're not quite done yet. If we do this option, we can show the wind arrows around a storm. You can also have different views of the storm. If you don't like that view, you can also display something called wind pattern. That'll display a multi-colored, multi-leveled wind pattern of the storm, and then from here you can do some of your additional analysis that you saw earlier. So there's different looks and feels you can give it when you're displaying a storm. So let's continue down this display menu option. You can display locations. Here we've displayed the airport locations. You can certainly undo any level you'd like. Let's display the small map locations, and it shows different locations. You can highlight different cities, for example, in different colors to make it stand out. Latitude, longitude grid is you can make it look like an old tracking chart. We're going to undo that one. The wind field we've shown, the wind pattern, watch and warning areas, all those items we've shown. Range rings from the base location, which is Houston here. So we're showing the distance from Houston of the storm. Some of this gets very busy, so we're going to undo as we go. Wind bands, probability analysis, most of these items generate a new tab. So for example, on the wind bands, let's take a look at the forecast wind bands. Okay, so now it's showing the wind bands for the storm. You can display the wind band legend, which will show which colors equate to what wind speeds. You may decide that you want to zoom in on an area. You can certainly do that. It'll reanalyze the wind bands. At this point, you can display your locations again if you'd like. So you can see how very easy and interactive the system is. So let's continue down the list. You have the wind probability analysis. We looked at this a little bit earlier, but there's the probability of a 64-knot wind in these different locations. Okay, one graphic we haven't looked at yet is the surge probabilities. Under display, you can say surge probability, and you pick the level that you're interested in. So let's say you want a probability of a 8-foot storm surge. It'll display those probabilities along the coastline as well as color code it. You can then zoom in closer to the area and get a view of the probability of that 8-foot storm surge. So this, along with the storm surge display program, is very valuable in determining the likelihood of you being impacted by a significant storm surge.